Hey, ladies and gents, it's Zem back again, and we are doing the review on the Generation 1 OH-13S scout helicopter, observation helicopter, whatever you want to call it. What this helicopter was a development by Bell in 1945. It was called the Bell 47. The military had some interest in it, and in 1947 they ordered a few of the Bell 47s and adopted these into which become known as the Sioux, the OH-13S. And these helicopters were probably some of the very first ones, really, used by the U.S. military. What this probably more well known for is if anybody's ever watched the show MASH, this is the soap bubble helicopters they flew in MASH. And typically, where the armament is mounted on this helicopter now would be two stretchers with a canopy over top of the stretcher. These were three-man helicopters with only about 200 horsepower, so they weren't, very. They couldn't carry a whole lot, so they would have a pilot and would be able to carry two stretchers on the side of the plane, on the side of the helicopter. They were used extensively in the late 40s and well into the 50s. Like I said, of course, the Korean War. They were used more as a medevac helicopter. Later on, when we got into more the Vietnam era, these helicopters were used solely as observation helicopters, and that's kind of what we got in game as kind of playing this is the Generation 1, essentially scout helicopter. They had some interesting, obviously besides the bubble, soap bubble cockpit, it had saddlebag fuel tanks. This kind of makes you wonder, Jesus Christ, could you imagine flying around with these things hanging off the side of your helicopter? Yeah. However, what's interesting when I did a little more reading about the helicopter is that it could carry armament, but it was not normally done because it caused engine problems when it would carry either usually two M60 machine guns, and these machine guns, when fired, would cause the engine problems. They never really elaborated past the point that it would that was not something they normally did with this helicopter. This was a three-man observation helicopter or a medevac helicopter. It was used by the Coast Guard. It was used by the Navy, and at least 25 different countries used this helicopter. It was used probably more extensively, not just with the U.S. military, but also with the British, which was a kind of interesting little piece of history. This was actually licensed to be built by the Westland Corporation. Unfortunately, the U.S. military said, no, you can't do that because we can't have a competitor producing this aircraft. So Westland got Augusta from Italy to produce the aircrafts, or produce this helicopter. Kind of a little weird piece of history there, I guess. It was used extensively by the U.S. military up until about the early 1960s, mid-60s, before it eventually was replaced. It's still flies. There's, I believe, over 1,000 of these registered in the United States, still flying. And in fact, in 1910, a small helicopter company was able to procure the license, and they are, I do believe, in 2016, they were starting delivery of this upgraded Bell 47, which is essentially this OH-13S, which is, fascinating that an aircraft that was designed in 1945 is now going to be reproduced and sold. Of course, there's going to be major upgrades. I believe it's an actual turboshaft engine and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, quite a bit more than the 200 horsepower that this thing originally had when it first started out. So what do we get in game? Well, we have these being a light helicopter, a scout helicopter, or an observation helicopter, however you want to put it. They usually, we have two upgrades here. We have machine guns, two of them, two M60s, 7.62s on either side, and it also carries six FFAR 70mm rockets. Now these I don't know historically if I could not find these. There were several different variants of this helicopter. There might have been a variant that could carry these two pods of rockets. A second one actually carries ATGM wire guided missiles. If I remember correctly, these are, of course, Russian. So I'm not quite sure where this configuration comes. I'd have to do a little bit more research. I really didn't talk about, unless this is a variant of something that was done by a foreign country, which is very possible. Like I said, these were sold to everybody from Zambia to, I believe, Australia. They were all over there, Middle East. A lot of people bought this helicopter, so maybe this is a variant for that. But the big thing, of course, is the mortar observer that you carry in this helicopter. And you use the mortars from your transport helicopters to take out targets. The soldiers, of course, you don't carry anything because, like I said, this is a three-man observation. Defense and camo, obviously the camo you can buy. But yeah, that's the history of this helicopter. One of the very first helicopters used by the U.S. military, and had a relatively at least 15 to 20 years service in the U.S. military. I never could find out exactly when it was retired from the Navy and the Coast Guard. But yeah, it more iconic from the fact that it was probably well known from the television series MASH. So, with that said, I'm going to bring up some gameplay for you here. We'll take a little look at the helicopter. They do a nice job of detail and the mods on this of this helicopter. I mean, you can really see some that people actually flew in this. Essentially looks like a metal frame with an engine on it, and fuck it, let's just jump in and go fly, right? So I'm going to bring up the gameplay for you guys and see what this thing is supposed to do. Alright guys, back with the some gameplay in the OH. This being essentially a scout helicopter or an observation helicopter, you do carry a mortar spotter. I've already laid down a couple mortar crews here and kind of give you an idea what this thing does. It does not have the greatest, you just don't get shot with this thing. You will get beat up to no end. However, it is great at taking out defended positions. For example, this number 4 objective here, of course, has a few anti-aircraft positions. And unfortunately, I didn't quite realize I was sitting behind the hill, so I got to move over here and try to get my actual direct sight onto the target. Pick off the first two AA crews, and I'm kind of moving in here. You'll notice up here in the corner, we're next to the binocs. When you hit the B button, it actually makes the whole spotting thing work. And if you're using, say, a attack helicopter, and you're using one of these scout helicopters, it can pick up troops at distance, so you don't have to get real close with your attack helicopter, and let you pick up troops on the ground. You know how hard it is to see troops on the ground, but this thing, that's what this thing's made for, is to pick up and spot and highlight targets for your attack helicopters, so they can, of course, destroy them. Or with this situation where I have mortars, I'm able to use my mortars instead of using an attack helicopter. That's, of course, if you have a transport helicopter that you can get out there and put mortars down. So I'm moving over here to objective 5, and I'm just kind of moving in here real slow. I don't like to get shot at with this thing because it's so lightly armored. I don't even know if it's necessarily armored, but it does not take well to get the shit kicked out of it. So, backing up here, I'm just laying my pipper down on top of the AA mounts, and for some reason I start having a little problem. About that time I noticed there's some river boats. I need to get this done and over with before they get into my range here where they can start picking me up. So I pulled back a little bit here. There we go, come on. Dropped off the 2 AA positions. Pick up another one. You notice we are constantly dabbing the B button so I get the binocs up and start picking up these targets. pick up my second AA position, and now I got incoming riverboats. It is lightly armed, I should say, with just the 260s, two M60s, and of course the six rockets. So you do not want to get into a fight. However, picking up small targets like this or small groups of soldiers, you can knock them out and gun them down a little bit here. So I pill around here, got the M60s up, and we're going to see if we can knock out some of these riverboats real quick. It takes a little bit of time to get down on target on these guys. Knock out one riverboat, pull back around here, and I got two soldiers sitting here. And this is the role of this aircraft, of course, is to observe and pick out targets. Drop those two soldiers, and now I got two riverboats here I need to finish off. And let's see if I can fucking hit something. Finally, pick off the last riverboat. I got one more to go. Pull over here. There we go. Still a little too low. Finish off him. You're not, like I said, you're not want to get engaged with large groups of soldiers or, of course, riverboats and that stuff. This thing just does not have the armament for it, unless, of course, at least the troop-wise, you can drop mortars on it. Boats, riverboats are almost impossible to hit with mortars, unless, of course, you get a real lucky on that. So you're going to have to rely on your rockets and your machine guns to deal with riverboats. So pull in here, got the objective 4, pull up my mortars, and we're going to start dropping mortars here on these positions and try to knock out these AAs. Pick up the first one, nailed him, and we're going to kind of move around the corner. This thing's all about the stealth. And I think, of course, when you get into the PvP where you're going to be playing against other players, this is probably going to be one of the helicopters you're going to use for hunting down transport helicopters. Knock out the second AA mount on objective 4. Now I've cleared up 4 and 5. And we're going to go over here to find and destroy enemy infantry in the marked area. These are my objectives. I'm just kind of showing you guys what this thing does well. So I'm going to go pick up some more rockets, and then I'm going to head up to the 8 block up on the top there. I should say 10-8. They have a weird number system. There's no A's involved. I'm sure there's a reason for that. So pull in here. With the smaller rocket count and machine gun mount, it doesn't take very long to reload this helicopter. In fact, it's just a matter of a few seconds. Back up here. It is relatively quickly. That historical helicopter had a cruising speed of about 130 kilometers an hour. But like I said, being a light helicopter, observation helicopter, it is relatively quick. So back on the run here, and I'm going to go up to the north here and pick up this. See if I can pick up a couple of objectives here. I already got 1 of 5, so I'm going to move up here and try to take out these soldiers or enemy boats or whatever is going to be hanging out here up here on this orange square. Move on through cover here. Of course, you never know if there's going to be somebody sitting up in these bushes or trees or whatever. And back over the top here. Light helicopters, like I said, you're going to be using stealth as much as anything. You're not really going to bull yourself into any of these objectives and try to take out AA mounts or RPGs or man pads with this thing, because you're just going to get fucking wrecked. It just can't handle it here. So pull in here, got my mortars up, pick up my first couple targets. There you are, fellas. And just kind of start laying mortars in there and see what we can do here. And they all land about roughly the same time. Finish off that set of troops. I still have an orange square over objective 1, so I know there's more enemy troops there. Some more blue baddies. Pull it back around here. Pick up my binocs. Find them down below here. And we're going to pull in here and, of course, start dropping some mortar shells on them. Oh, there we go. Picked up 2 RPGs and another soldier. Now, I got some in the back there, and this is kind of the hard part about using these mortars is realizing if they're behind cover or not. You got to have somewhat of a direct line of sight on them to do it. So I'm going to see if I can get up a little bit higher. Yep, I got 4 there. And, of course, I can't quite get a direct line on them, so I got to move around the corner a little bit here. Yeah, there we go. Now I picked them up, and I'm going to start dropping some mortars in here. I'm a little bit overkill on the mortars. You probably only need one. Happens to be that I'm just a little bit too big a hurry. So, knocked out that bunch. I got one more up on the top here. Let's see if I can... then I realized just as I started firing rockets, I'm like, God damn it. Oh, yeah. They're on the... Because he's on the backside. They're both on the backside of the hill. So it doesn't do me any good anyway. Just go figure, right? One of those deals is like, eh. So I'm going to drop down below the ridge so I'm not in a direct line of fire with them. I'm out of rockets. I still got my machine guns, and of course I still have mortars. So I'm going to pull back around here, pick up my binocs, and pick up some more of these, the blue baddies. So there they are. Now, time for some mortars. Eat mortars, baddies! They just knocked them down, picked up the 2 RPGs and the 1 soldier, and I'm not terribly sure. Like I said, picked up 2 more, and now I'm looking around here. It says I've cleaned out. I still have the objective up, so I got to find 1 more. Might be 2 more in there for as far as I can tell. Oh, they just landed, and I think I've cleaned this objective. Nothing else showing. So yeah, that's essentially what you do as an observation scout helicopter. Is you need to be picking up the blue baddies. You have the binocs and whatnot. You need to highlight them for your fellow players. I'll be having somebody ask me about this to do some more multiplayer. I have a bunch more guys interested in playing the game, and they're either downloading or getting ready to play it. So when I get enough guys into some of these rooms, these PvE rooms, we're going to be try to do some tactics, running scout helicopters with attack helicopters, and guys that are going to be running the utility helicopters, transport helicopters, and whatnot like that. So yeah, just give me a little bit of time here to work with everybody and try to get this up and running. So pull in here, and of course, about that time, the other guy that joined the room ended up giving me the victory. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll have some more of this Heliborne stuff up for you guys a little bit later.